Hello everyone. Today's talk is called The Reflection of the Man on the Train. And so, let me even put that more eloquently, the train station. Because when you are on a train ride, you're always aware of the stations, because it's going from one station to another. And so in life you find that your moment also changes. Suddenly you're in this relationship, and suddenly you go into another relationship. And so you're constantly confronting different aspects of life and how they project themselves to have meaning in that moment. And suddenly that moment passes and your whole life is meaningful in new ways. It's as if something has been staying the same as you've been growing up, and something has been changing. Now, it's really important for you to be aware that everything is changing. And so what is remaining there is of a transcendental quality, and this is not something to cover up or to make it esoteric or something like that. It's simply how the human being, after some point, becomes curious of what it is, and it asks questions. These questions are deep. And so as he asks these questions, the search becomes deep, because it is a search that is requiring a satisfaction not only on one level. It's as if you are still pursuing a bit of your senses, but as you are, you're more aware of how they are relevant to you. And as you become aware of it, you see that nothing can remain in the totality of your full awareness to self, because that sense of self is being observant of a view that cannot see itself. You will simply see there are some aspects of your mind that you're simply an observance. You're not the individuality that you think you are. As if like your vehicle has an intelligence of its own, so you were never in a vehicle. And so it's really important, because shapes can become sources of illusion or vehicles of clarity. And so it's very important how you choose to observe whatever you observe. You see, there was a very interesting fellow I saw on YouTube, and I think his name was Charles Manson. And I didn't really look into who he is, but I just saw the video to kind of see who that man was. And so in the video, it was him in prison, and in that interview he was talking about how while being in the prison cell he was having an experience of himself not just being alone. And he was like, you cannot limit me regardless of how much you put in a box. As if when life put Charles Manson in prison, that's when he really began seeing life, being life actually. And so really what happened for him, the fact that he was in a prison cell and he had an experience of his own presence somewhere else, is actually a very interesting phenomena which Mr.Within can now explain, and in a sense attempt to explain, because it's something that, because it's an unexplored terrain, I'm simply going in the woods with my machete trying to see where I'm going. So follow me as I'm trying to figure this out, in a sense, for all. So now the situation is, and when we look at Charles Manson, that man who was in the cell, he had discovered something which I have found a similarity. So as me looking at that kind of information, how I can recognize it, and me looking at certain meditative practices in ancient India, and certain qualities of just mysticism, it was very obvious for me that that person had realized a sense of their being that was more real back in ancient Indian times than now. And so what I mean by that is that in ancient India there are people named Siddhas, and it's a very interesting concept. These are simply men who have reached certain stages of awareness that their totality is an able physical manifestation, if I can say that. It's very hard to explain their qualities because their qualities are based on man's limitation and then are shown to be limitless. So for example, a sense of omnipresence. You can go anywhere in this reality. It's as if like for a second they're suggesting in ancient Vedic teachings that if you become aware of your existence, you realize you are the totality, and so it's no longer than an individual in a very unknown collective system, but you are in a sense a collective that is in a wonderful way looking at the unknown aspect of the individual. So what that means is that, think about it this way. Mankind, you have your individual mind, you're thinking of your reality. You think of it, boom, there's a light. You're just emanating. It's as if someone's turned on a light bulb when you're self-aware and when you're looking at yourself. However, now that you're turned on a light bulb, you see that it's as if the minute you're a light bulb that is in a sense, let's say you're a light bulb that is turned on, so others are seeing you and will see you, and you will simply see that human beings consider themselves to be individual in front of a very collective audience. And so similarly, your collective sense of intelligence, guys, it's a very interesting phenomenon. What I've realized is that the human consciousness is evolving to a degree where it is having the ability to simultaneously acknowledge many realities. And so this is simply what Mr.Within suggests to when he talks about the pilots of consciousness and advanced communicators. The fact that we are becoming more aware of the nature of reality because we're just going so crazy at it. It's like every person who messed up, who failed, was at the same time expanding the human experience in some manner. And so there's no failure when your vision looks beyond the temporal. So therefore these siddhas and these yogis, in a sense, they would have certain abilities. And so, for example, one of them is known to have lived through 7,500 apocalypses, for example. Just to give you a sense of what kind of imagery is being communicated. So it's as if like there's a transcendental awareness that gives them the ability that is all power. And so it's not power in the sense of trying to move rocks and now you can because, you know, you have a construction company. It's more like the power that you get by being so aware to the quality and fabrics of your existence that you're in a sense seeing that your experience was never originated from an individual source. And so when you realize that, you're like, whoa, how is that possible? And so you see your mind will show itself that how it's possible is because you never trusted it. The minute you do, you will see the vastness of the intelligence that is keeping you. You know, it's as if this now man is, you know, is trying to, how do I say it? You have to create your own bridge into yourself to then be everywhere externally. How do I say it? It's as if Charles Manson, what he realized was the teaching of that lifetime was to, in a sense, recognize that he could go beyond time regardless of how much he had messed up. And so conception must be perceived so accurately to the degree that there is nothing there. That means, oh, nothingness is a sense of us being aware that, oh, it's a mirror. There's nothing there. The reflection's not there. It's me, right? The reflection's not in the wall. It's me in the mirror. So once we realize that, oh gosh, the edges of our mind is self-reflective, you realize there was no point of searching externally. You must immediately go internal. So what that means is that you will kind of, you know, look at this life and suddenly realize your decisions have been just one story out of all the stories it could have been. So when do the stories end? And so suddenly you become curious, and wisdom becomes the longing for you to know thyself, to know yourself, you know? And that's important because you're not trying to search for a certain truth in an obsessive manner, you know? It's as if like the psychology of the person who seeks truth completely suggests their truth, you know? It's as if you see, okay, this person has been raised in this manner. It is totally real in their eyes. I can totally understand how this person believes in God and how this person doesn't believe in God. So the truth is not something to talk about. It is just how each individual being is aware of the totality of their experience. Similar to those yogis, similar to what I think, at least, what Mr. Within thinks Charles Manson, you know, experience. But let me tell you, it's not something that's in the realms of good and bad. So what I mean by that is I don't know the person, I just saw a YouTube video. But in that YouTube video, I saw that your experience as a human being can move beyond a box. And so boxes is really how knowledge and language and everything that's shaped is being trying to be understood. It's as if a square was very significant in how everything was designed in this reality. And so in a sense, you need to move out of the boxes that you are on some subtle level creating, you know. It's as if that worry you had was on some subtle level constantly making it more real, the experience of whatever that you were worried about, you know. You need to realize that one technique that Mr. Within would like to share that you can have immediately to change your state of being, let's say you're angry or something, is to move your attention to a new locality of space and time. So what that means is that, let's say if I'm angry at someone in the living room, just leave the building, just go outside. And when you go outside, you'll never get angry because the space is open. It's just in houses that you really get angry, you know? You know, of course this is my experience. So it's very crucial to see that the mind of man will find itself to be transparent, and in that transparent moment in your life, in that moment where life is getting deep, it's very important to be honest with yourself. Not, you know, you can be honest with others, you know. I recommend that, you know. Of course, I recommend being honest with everyone because there's no reason not to be. You must think that a free being is not, it's also psychologically free, so he's not creating illusions of himself in the realities of others to satisfy the needs of his life, you know. It's like, you know, we still don't want to survive like an animal, you know. We want to transcend in quality, and so we must realize that we must evolve by our intentions. Many people think, oh no, this is simply how, you know, my genes are, and I had good genes and bad genes, and, you know, there's all this kind of argument. But you kind of see it's the intentions, because you're a creator regardless of the creation that you're walking through, you know. So what that means is that on some subtle experience, the ability of the greatest ability of you changing things in life comes from the greatest ability of you to see you within the universe. It's as if you really need to pay attention to your existence, because in that awareness you are beyond the limitation. You're out of the proximity of the problem, and so that's why you were never bothered. You know, and it's very interesting, guys, because you will see that direction will communicate. I want to continue on with what we can find in a train station, and simply see that there's a point, a moment of complete fullness, and then suddenly a moment of emptiness, which is the station is empty. So to realize that similar to life, just like this train station, it shifts and it moves. It gives us many forms of understanding of things to gives us an understanding of things that are really transition. So anyways, transition is really important, because you here as a moment of experience are finding yourself changing your spectrum. It's all change. And so the being who has an ability to observe change and simply be its handling was the one who, in a sense, became his freedom. In other words, sometimes things are not coming to you and you need to come to them. And so your intention is simply the ability to step forward. Much blessings and namaste.